show is about alien abductions and evidence that is left behind. I'm pussnboots, your host for tonight on Biased Propaganda Radio, and our co-host is Coolhand Luke 74. Thank you for being here. I wanted to start off by saying I met a few individuals years ago who mentioned the evidence left behind on their bodies. I was a skeptic, of course, as in most things. However, over the years of examining it and trying to find more information online, I began to wonder for myself if this was not actually a truth that has not made it to mainstream. On that note, I wonder if the reason it is not mainstream is because it is true and the powers that be want it hidden. The evidence I'm referring to is the UV tags or tattoos that is left behind to mark certain individuals for certain reasons unknown to us. Patterns I was shown was on the nose and around the mouth, and in one case, in the mouth of these individuals. The patterns around the nose was a purple color. No specific pattern that I could tell, but almost exact in all individuals that I was studying. The patterns around the mouth, mainly on the bottom, was orange in color. This was more random, but it seemed same amount of spots per person. The color of the mouth, in the mouth, was a greenish color, and I felt that this could be more like candida. I did roll this out as time went on, and certain products red candida were used, and the markings stayed. There was for years speculation on the eye whites being greenish yellow under UV light. Today's show is a yellow under UV light as from aerosols. However, I dismissed this as well when the abduction UV patterns were present. There is a bacteria called erythrasma, which is fluorescent, a yellow orangish color. And again, this is not what I'm referring to. There was an idea passed around those individuals. It may have been able to wash it off or just under the dermis, and it would wear off over time. There is a tattoo ink that you can buy that can glow in the dark. However, it is only up close to the UV light and wears off in less than a few months. I have thought of this idea at first, and however, when the tags or marks stayed, I had to dismiss this, and the markings, tags, would fluoresce more than an inch or so. By far, much stronger than a tattoo could be. I kept on this study for years, and the patterns did not wear off nor disappear, and even with products to exfoliate the skin, the marks or tags remained, much to those who had it dismay. I do know that the tattoo fluorescents do wear off rather fast, so this is not a valid idea on this subject. On the website, I will read from talks of the markings going away from an hour to 14 days. However, in the individuals I studied, it never went away. I had to ask those involved if they had any recollection of abductions. One did, the others did not. They all had one thing in common. They were all female, they were all childbearing age, and they all had weight gains every few months, then lost the weight, as in a stolen pregnancy, much talked of in abduction stories. The one who had memories was more like dreams. She said, and one reason she could remember them was by the beings was because she took vitamins, specifically iodine. Why that would matter, she did not know. There were many different species she talked of, and only one she fought. My concern is how many more are being abducted on a regular basis and have these marks. It is plain on the face, and anyone with UV lights can see it, including those in public, etc., like three-letter agencies. What if they know the purpose of these markings and know what it means, and they see the person in public, etc.? What kind of bearing does that have on normal life? Can this affect life in general, affect how or where someone lives or works or socializes? How can we truly know? If you're marked, would it bother you? I found an article on this on burlingtonnews.net/abduction fluorescence. I'm going to read some of that article here. The article is called "The Afterglow of the UFO Abduction Experience." Fluorescent markings found on claimants of alien extraterrestrial contact by Eve Frances Lorgan, M.A. Daryl Sims, chief investigator of UFO abductions for Houston UFO Network, or HUFON, discovered unusual fluorescent markings on numerous abductees who claimed alien contact. According to Sims, he got the idea for his research and the fact that fluorescence, a luminescent light emissions in the presence of an ultraviolet black light energy source, was observed in many of the cattle mutilation investigations thought to be associated with UFO activity. Sims proved to be right on target. Daryl's investigations revealed fluorescent markings on various body sites of abductees in approximately 5% of the abduction cases. As a biochemist who routinely worked with fluorescence, I was intrigued. Seeking a scientific explanation for the afterglow effect, I accompanied Daryl Sims to a routine abduction investigation to witness the fluorescence myself. An abductee who claims a recent alien encounter was interviewed by Daryl, myself, and Dr. Roger Lear, podiatrist from Thousand Oaks, California, who graciously offered his medical office and consultation free of charge. Following the interview, the four of us huddled together in a small, darkened corner doctor's office, switched on Daryl's ultraviolet black light, and observed bluish-white fluorescence on portions of the patient's hands and fingers. Dr. Lear rubbed the abductee's hand to check if the fluorescence could be removed. It didn't. Daryl remarked that the fluorescence is often subdermal and cannot be washed away. I suggested that an alcohol swab could remove or quench the fluorescence, so the doctor wiped off the afflicted area with an isopropyl alcohol swab. Immediately, the fluorescence faded. Within minutes, the patient's hands was checked with the black light, and again, Daryl's intuition was correct. The luminescence returned to its original intensity and color and was apparently subdermal. I was still skeptical. The fluorescence could be something from the natural environment, some offending agents such as cosmetics, laundry detergent, or even dog urine. Dried dog urine fluoresces upon UV irradiation, and landlords will routinely check their tenants' living quarters with a black light to check for evidence of dog urine. Some laundry detergents and soap contain fluorescent optical whiteners and brighteners. Simple innocuous things such as paper-like tags sewn into clothing necklines contain fluorescent whiteners that can leach into the skin subdermally. I noticed this accidental fluorescence one morning. Interfering substances such as these must be ruled out when investigating for fluorescence due to alleged alien contact. However, if this fluorescence was a genuine artifact left behind inadvertently by the alien abductors, then what valuable information could be extrapolated about the mysterious alien presence? I reviewed Daryl's fluorescence findings from several other abductees and constructed a chart. The findings were startling. The primary fluorescence found on abductees following an abduction appeared in the yellow-green region of the visible spectrum. Body sites included portions of the arms, shoulders, ears, breasts, legs, hands, chin, chest, and even inside the mouth. Most of the fluorescence was subdermal. In one case, a dime-sized marking on the palm was rigorously massaged, and fluorescence diffused into the massaged area of the hand and fingers and remained subdermal. An unusual reddish-pink fluorescence was discovered on the hands, fingers, palms, and neck regions of an abductee who recalled handling and cuddling alien, human, infant hybrids during her encounter. White fluorescence was found in the mouth, oral mucous membranes, and tongue. Blue fluorescence was observed on the hands and in the arms of the unusual heart-shaped Mandelbrot design. Markings such as the crescent, triangle, and heart-shaped Mandelbrot appeared as if they were deliberate designs or brands on certain individuals. But in general, most of the fluorescence was found as irregular splotching. All fluorescence was visualized using a commercially available UV light, short and long wave, black light source, in a darkened area. Most fluorescents fade within 1 to 14 days following the alleged encounter. After reviewing Darrell's findings, I asked, why fluorescents? Are the aliens or whomever handling the abductees bioluminescent? Are they deliberately using fluorescent labels to mark the abductees? To understand fluorescence uses, okay, I'm going to start going over another part of this article. It says, based on my knowledge and experience with fluorescence, SIMS findings on abductees can suggest several things. Fluorescent contamination of substances to the abductees' natural environment. These things can be ruled out by checking fluorescence with a black light in the individual's home and work environment. If the fluorescence is subdermal, then the offending agent has the ability to diffuse into the skin, such as oil or solvent. Regular splotching suggests possible handling by alleged alien entities, as the fluorescents are transmitted due to the naturally occurring or contaminating component. The fluorophore they mark with on the alien skin, an alien fingerprint, if you will. Fluorescence has also been reported by mutilated cattle. However, the source and mechanism of this fluorescent phenomenon may be different from what we observe in abductees. The design patterns such as crescent, Mandelbrot, and other unique markings suggest a possible application, identification, or marking of fluorescent material on the bodies of the abductees. Anomalous fluorescence of substances not normally fluorescent may be due to electronic transitions from high energy levels such as interdimensional shifts. The fluorescent design marks found on abductees were probably some type of organic fluorescent material used by the abduction handlers, as evidenced by their fluorescence and their ability to diffuse into the subdermal layers of the skin. Most of the fluorescents seen on abductees post-abduction are subdermal yellowish-green or bluish-lavender irregular splotch marks. This suggests a contamination of the fluorophore used as markers by the aliens, albeit sloppy lab technique, or more interestingly, a naturally occurring fluorescent residue transmitted from alien skin, perhaps a unique form of bioluminescence. According to some cattle mutilation research, luminescent substance was found marked on the surgically excised area of the cattle. Whether or not this is the same fluorescent material observed on the abductees is unknown at this time. To make a clearer assessment of what is truly happening and what these fluorescent substances are would require a costly analytical quantitative analysis. Until such testing is completed, I can only make an educated guess on the afterglow effect. A good hunch can get us on the right track, but paradoxically, in academic scientific circles, seeing is not believing, even if aliens are standing right in front of us glowing. What would it take for the scientific community and the world at large to believe that alien abductions are happening right under our noses? More than scientific facts, credibility, and witnesses to prove aliens are out there. What it will take is a brilliant human intuition to outsmart the alien presence so we don't end up like the cattle. This is Puss in Boots and Propaganda Radio. So I want to open up the floor to discussion on the subject and ask my co-host, Cool Hand Luke 74, what ideas are on the subject and if he's heard of it before.
That was very well done. This is Cool Hand Luke 74. Alien abductions and proof of it has been in the news as of late, and
okay, folks. We're having difficulties here. I will be back in just a second. Okay, cool. Are you able to step in there now?
Can you hear me now? Hello? Okay, this is Cool Hand Luke 74 here, and very interesting, and one of my favorite subjects too, to be honest, is physical proof of alien abductions with probes or marks, or even claw marks too, to be honest. And it has been in mainstream news, but it's ridiculed though. You know, people are out of their minds and stuff, even though when presented with actual proof, they still deny it. There are some researchers out there who do remove the probes from human bodies, and they have YouTube videos out there and shows out there, and there is physical proof out there, and some have them tested. And when they test the material for it, it's a metal of an unknown origin, not found on planet Earth. So there is something to this, obviously, and it's an estimate that millions of people get abducted every year, but very few of them are reported, though. Some do come forward after a time, and most of the time it is a lifelong experience. It's never just one time. It happens over and over again. I have had wear marks on my body before. I have had claw mark on my body unexplained. And one time when I was helping to do some gutters, I fell off the roof and smashed my face a little bit. I went to the doctor and I did x-rays, and they found out I had a little small small hole in my nose bone. And he asked me, do you need drugs at all? I go, no. Well, you shouldn't have it looks like a drill mark, he goes. There's nothing there, but I've never had any procedure done in my body where they had a drill. So it's kind of, wow, where does this come from, you know? And many people are scared to come forward because of the ridicule, you know, your family, your friends, you know, and if it goes mainstream and on book or on news, you know, they get made fun of. And they really shouldn't, though, because there's something to this, obviously. So, what do you think, Puss in Boots? Do you think there's something really to this? Your personal belief. What do you think?
Well, I definitely do believe that there is something going on. I don't believe that it's just random chance. I don't believe that it's just, as they say, like a military operation or whatever. I don't believe that either, because just the evidence is kind of overwhelming to me that it has to be going on. And what I found fascinating was the evidence that is left behind. And I didn't know that you had experience with this as well. So that was nice for you to share. Thank you.
To touch on real quick is there's a couple of cases in South America as well as some other parts of the world, human mutilation too. And I was reading this when I was younger, and it happened like 12 years ago in some South American country where they found a dead body on the side of the road with hole marks in the body, and they did tests on it, and they said the whole thing was done while the guy was alive, so he felt all the pain of it basically. And I'm not so sure if it couldn't be demonic maybe, or perhaps alien nature. They don't care what they do basically. They look down as like animals basically, and they test that way. This guy's body's all messed up, almost like laser cut marks, like drill marks in the body, portions of his body missing basically, like a cattle basically, you know, cattle mutilation, same thing but done to a human though. I found that kind of freaky. My personal belief is that we are not the only ones in the universe. It's full of life, and there's intelligent life out there. But I also believe that there's also evil out there too, in the form of fallen angels. And that could be a real possibility too. A lot of people overlook. The blood was drained too in the human body. I mean, the test they did show he was alive through the whole process, and he died during the process. I mean, it's been a horrifying experience for the guy to go through. I mean, there's only a few of these cases, though, thank God, but I mean, they are out there. I mean, it just blows your mind, you know. I mean, bad enough you're getting abducted, but you're being torn apart basically for their scientific experimentation, more or less, you know. And like I said, I'm glad that it's only a couple of cases, like I said. But physical proof of alien abductions, not only on the human body, but also in the area surrounding, with holes in the ground, radiation above and beyond what it should be, and sometimes pictures. You know, some of these pictures are not too good of quality, though, but some are getting better, though. If you look out there, some of the best quality pictures of UFOs are in the South American countries, where the government doesn't try to hide it. And I've seen a couple specials on Netflix and other programs where these UFO pictures are clear as night, basically, so to speak. Clear as crystal. Better analogy. And it looks like something we couldn't possibly do unless we had reverse engineering from a UFO, or we're more advanced than we give ourselves credit for, and the militaries of the world hide this kind of fact. But physical proof of an alien abduction is usually called a second close encounter of. The third, of course, is alien abduction. The first is visibility of a UFO or reporting a UFO, but the second one is the one the show is about. Physical proof of a UFO or physical proof of an alien abduction. And there's tons of folds out there if you want to look for them. Some are very, very convincing. Do I think it's happening? Yeah, I do think it's happening. I think it's very interesting, like these probes, when they're tested, are of unknown origin or a technology we don't have yet. I think a few researchers do have this documented in books and movies and stuff and shows. And like I said, I've seen a few on the local news too, from time to time. It's rare though, because people ridicule them, oh, this is fake, whatever. But we also heard the stories out there. We're all CTers. I mean, most of us don't want to talk this kind of stuff because it gets way too real, way too quick. But ask yourself, so if you went through this horrifying experience, you had marks on your body or a possible probe found by a doctor, would you come forward yourself? And if they ask you, Puss in Boots, if you found something weird in your body, would you come forward to the public about it, or would you keep it secret?
Well, I want to go back to something that you mentioned a little bit earlier about the government covering it up here, and that would be my main reason for thinking that this bioluminescence tags or tattoos are actually real, and also the other implants and the other marks that you were talking about are real as well, because mainly the bioluminescence, that is like very rare. You can find it online about anything about it, and you can't really get good pictures of it, etc., unless you have a really good camera. And I also wanted to put a station identification in here. This is Puss in Boots. You're listening to Bias Propaganda Radio. And I would like to add also that I would probably bring it up into the public that something had happened. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely convinced that there is something going on.
This is Cool and Luke here. One of the reasons why I think the folds are kind of blurry and stuff is these objects moving fast too. I mean, it's hard to capture a fast-moving object with some of the cameras we have in our phones and cameras we have, period. I mean, these objects go faster than what our visual planes can go. Sometimes 10 times faster. At speeds of Mach 10, if not higher. And only time you get a good picture if there's hovering, which is rare. You're not going to get good pictures when it's moving around like crazy. Some people think it moves in between dimensions. That's why it appears to be shaking as it is. Because I'm a firm believer that you cannot go from like star to star, from A to B, a straight line. You have to warp space and time possibly to get to our star. Otherwise, it'll take you years upon years, possibly millions of years to travel throughout the universe. But if you warp space, so you have a piece of paper and you want to get somewhere in the middle. You fold that piece of paper up in half and you're there. You create a wormhole. You create a warp, basically. That's how I feel how these visitors travel to see us. Otherwise, they'd be going through hundreds of thousands of years to get to us, and most original crew would have died off by then. So the technology is there somehow. I don't think we can do this yet, to be honest. Even if we had a crash UFO and we reverse engineered it, I don't think we're there yet. Like I said, maybe we can travel planets. Maybe we're getting there though, but like I said, the physical proof here is the good physical proof is few and far between though, because like I said, the UFO is constantly moving around, and it's hard to take a good picture. And let's face it, most of us are not professional photographers either, so we're not going to have the best pictures possible. As for the skin marks and the scoop marks and the probes you see, there are some good pictures out there, some very good pictures out there. Some are fake and some are real, in my opinion. But I think as time goes on and we perfect this a little more, more information comes out from this, more people are going to start to question what's really going on out there. Because as long as we're having our little homes, we're having entertainment, we're having food, we don't really care what's going on out there, We see stories like this, we'll watch it for a time. and not really soak it in, to be honest. Like, oh, okay, they abducted. There's some proof of it. Okay, who's playing tonight? The Bulls, the Knicks, you know? Most people really don't care when it comes to this kind of stuff until it's home or a relative comes forward during a family meeting or family outing or family holiday meal and saying, hey, something weird happened to me. I have these weird marks on my body, and you ever pause at the family table. You know, oh, Uncle Joey is smoking pot again. You know, he's talking about UFOs and aliens and stuff. You know, but luckily throughout the years recently, it's becoming more mainstream. You know, abductions, UFOs, and CT theories, and more people are believing that there's something else out there and something's happening to us. And no one's in the room because of the nature of proof, vague and indefinite. Pretty much. I mean, there's only a few good cases out there, to be honest. You know, and the stories you do hear from it come from CT radio or internet radio, basically, and the shows thereof. And once in a while, you have a UFO story in 2020 or some major, you know, outfits, but it's rare these days. And most people who are abducted, like people says, are viewed as crazy, mental illness, or they're high on drugs of some kind. You know, it's not really accepted by current culture. And to my opinion, it should be, because there's more enough proof out there. So there are more enough stories out there. I've heard stories myself from some of my friends, you know, being abducted and having some proof with it. You know, and you talk to them, and they believe it themselves it's real. You know, it's not like they're making it up. They show me the marks on their bodies and stuff, and but they don't want to come forward, though, you know, because of various things. And I turn it back over to you, Puss in Boots.
Okay, that brings up something else that I had thought of, listening to you talk about how your friends don't want to bring this up into a more public light. I definitely understand that, and I see everywhere that abductees are portrayed as crazy, including in famous movies like Independence Day, and that's just one of the ones that I can think of right offhand. It is not something that is going to be allowed to come out into light because it seems like it is wanted that people are portrayed that way as crazies, so that way nobody believes them, even with insurmountable evidence, etc. So until we can change that, it's just going to keep on going. Now, another thing I wanted to mention too, I did notice on the forum today that somebody had said that Hillary Clinton was going to say that she would tell people if aliens existed, if she found out. And I thought that was a pretty low ploy to try to get votes from the people that believe in aliens and UFOs, etc. So, okay. Now, I want to go ahead and open up the floor for anyone else who wants to pipe in on this conversation about alien abductions and the evidence that's left behind. Does anyone have anything that they want to input?
This is Nolo. I would just make a comment here about the phenomena in general, where people don't have actual proof that they can carry around, you know, with the exception, of course, of these markings on your face. But there's no leftover beer cans. There's no socket wrenches that they left behind. There's no something that you could put on 60 Minutes and say, yes, look, here's an alien device. There's and the strange part about it is that interconnected phenomena is things like Bigfoot or elves or ghosts or any of those sorts of things seems to be the evidence seems to lie with the participant that's observing the phenomena, but it doesn't share very well. And something that falls into that sort of category, there was a UFO researcher named Jacques Vallée, and I think he spent like 35 years, you know, or more, just documenting all of the phenomena that surrounded UFOs, and then he branched out into the more esoteric, like Bigfoot and such. But what he found was the common denominator between all of these things was that it fostered a sort of a mindset where you could believe or not believe. There wasn't quite enough proof to say, oh yes, definitively this is empirical evidence, I can display this, and everyone can agree upon what it is. And then at the same time, there was, for the individual, there was like all the proof in the world. And so it would make you think, yeah, this is real, or is it not real? With all of these sorts of phenomena, that's what he found was in common with all of them. And so he kind of drifted away from the thought that these are extraterrestrial beings. Because of the commonality of the evidence from all of these sorts of phenomena, that they all fostered this sort of disbelief, that he categorized these sorts of phenomena as coming as either a byproduct or a direct result of contact from interdimensional beings. And so it would sort of explain the commonality of the creatures or the entities or whatever you want to call it, and the common byproducts, and yet how completely different some of them were, and yet they would not have physical evidence as we would think of it. Like, in other words, where do they dump their garbage? Where do they leave their USB drives? Where would they leave? That sort of thing seems to be almost entirely lacking. And I would recommend that if you're seriously researching phenomena, that you do a little bit of background and read Jacques Vallée.
Okay, that was pretty awesome. I had not actually touched upon the interdimensional part, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's a very good thing to also include into this. And I want to open up the floor to our other guests in the room and see if they have any similar stories, or if they have an opinion on our show tonight, alien abductions and the evidence that's left behind. I'm Puss in Boots, and you're listening to Bias Propaganda Radio. Thank you for joining in, and I open up the floor to anyone else who wants to add their opinion or experiences.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and chime up. Hi, everyone. This is Rush. You mentioned about the interdimensional beings. Now, as I did type in earlier about, I have so little to add when it comes to aliens, but what do we define aliens as? Something we can't put our minds around so much because, yeah, the lack of information. But when you fall into that category of interdimensional,
Okay, it seems we're having technical difficulties here. I want to open up the floor to other hosts that we have tonight, see what other people have.
Charlotte. I find interesting your statement that the colors of the fluorescence are different.
Yeah, there was different colors. From what I found, there was purple around the nose on the individuals that I had studied, and there was orange on around the bottom part of the mouth, and there was also a yellowish green in the eyes, the whites of the eyes, and in the mouth it was like a yellowish green also. And everything that was tried, this bioluminescence would not come off. I had first thought, chemtrails or whatever you want to call it for the eyes, since most people are, exposed outside, and I thought that was a possibility, but since it wasn't everybody who had this, I had to rule that out. And the mouth, I was thinking it was candida, because yeast and candida gives off that certain color. And when certain products were used, that color, bioluminescent color, stayed no matter what was done. So it was in the mouth, under the skin in the mouth as well. So it kind of had to be ruled out that it was anything kind of natural, so to speak. Okay, I want to open up for any other questions, if anyone has any other questions. Okay, Christopher Alex wanted to know, what is the difference between an interdimensional being and a spirit? Now that I have not touched on at all. Nolo, if you have any expertise on this or just any knowledge on this, could you possibly answer this for him, her?
Well, it's conceivable that any creature could have a spirit, but separate from an interdimensional being, they could just simply be in a universe that has different physical laws and rules than we do, not necessarily from a spiritual realm. In other words, if there are several dimensions, each one of them, they all could have spirits to them, and a spiritual dimension being a common point between all of them. But between different dimensions, the laws of physics could be so different that you wouldn't recognize it. To give a pretty bad example, it would be like the difference between matter and antimatter. It's the physical properties of each are 180 degrees, out from one another. Another dimension may consist of beings that are synonymous in several points at time, where we seem to be linear creatures. Now, that wouldn't necessarily mean a spiritual creature, although a spiritual creature could be in all points of time if they wanted to be. The distinction is probably pretty fine between the two, but as a category, one is a state of being, and the other is more a place of being. Whereas a spiritual being would be a mode or a state of being, and an interdimensional creature could be a particular dimension with those attributes and properties.
Very well said, Nolo, as always. One thing I think we have not asked the question is, why are they doing this to us? Why are they testing us? Why are they probing us? What's the purpose behind it? Probing is probably going to track us down to abduct us again, if that's the case. Why all the samples? The scoop marks, the fluids taken out, eggs taken out, semen taken out. What's the purpose of it? Some say it's because they've gone so far in their cloning of their species they can no longer reproduce. They need our material to go on. Or perhaps they're just curious because we're a different life form. Why not just come down here and say, hey, can we have some samples? That's not going to happen, though, you know. So they abduct us in the middle of night, out of the blue, for tissue samples, and to probe us. The question is why, though? What do you think, Nolo?
I'm thinking that perhaps we have something to offer. You know, maybe I'm very, what do they call it, human-centered in my thinking, because I am human, but it may be that we carry some sort of unique property of our own that's, I don't say necessary, but something that they would desire. I mean, if you think about it, there isn't much that you could trade or have commerce with something from another dimension. You know, hey, would you like some of my Lego bricks, or would you like some fancy beads? You know. However, if there was something about our nature that made it, say, easier to communicate to the spiritual realm, they would be very interested in something like that. Or if unknown to us, like if you read some of Carlos Castaneda, there are different dimensional beings that can feed off of us, sometimes without us even being aware. So perhaps there's something innate in our nature that they would like, or that's simply going to take. The phenomena that you see of scoops and markings and stuff may be a byproduct of something totally different, you know, and it's just manifesting itself as that upon us.
If you want to get a good read on this, too, for alien abductions and proof of it, Linda Moulton Howe has some good books out there you want to check out, and some good YouTube videos, too. Her name's Linda Moulton Howe. It's her field, too, by the way. Cow mutilations, and also a couple of cases of human mutilation, too. And Nolo, I gotta ask you, though, if these beings are draining our energy, could it also be kind of demonic, possibly, too? Maybe from fallen angels masquerading as aliens, possibly? The Great Deception, more or less, kind of, so to speak. I mean, I believe there are, aliens out there, because I don't think we're the only species God created, but I also believe there are dark forces out there, too, in the form of fallen angels, what we call demons.
Oh, that's entirely possible. It's also entirely possible that just like you can see signs of demonic activity influencing humans to do their whatever it is they want done, it's entirely conceivable that an extraterrestrial species could be under the same onus. The same sort of controls could be applied to them. And what really bothers me, and what really bothered Jacques Vallée when he did his research, is that fostering of the mindset where you're not really positive 100% that this is true and real and it's reality. On the other hand, you just can't dismiss it as, this is total illusion or delusion or a psyops by, say, the government. It goes a little bit beyond that. And so why would you want to foster that sort of disbelief in something? You would do that if there was something very important that humans had to learn to get over whatever next leap or ascension or whatever you want to call it. And that by putting this kind of categorization inside human beings where you believe it, don't believe it, you would begin to grasp all knowledge and put it in that sort of category where you can say definitively, yes, I believe this 100%, or nah, there's some kind of doubt. This is hokum. So you put it in a box in your mind and put it away. I'll decide on this later when I have firmer evidence, either yay or nay. And if you put something very important away in that box, it may be a step that would be very necessary for you to take to get out of the rut that humanity's in.
Very well said, Nolo. I have a question, too, for you and the room. Do you think when we start traveling the stars, if we do, we'll do the same kind of things? Go to different planets, we'll see an alien species there that's a little bit lower than us, we'll abduct them and do experiments on them, too? I can see it happening. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it's called SeaWorld. we abduct orcas, routinely. We breed them, we experiment on them, we perform experience. Hell, I don't think there's any species on Earth we haven't tried to modify or experiment with. I mean, I'm sure in back labs there's people trying to make monkeys talk and give ants sentience and all that sort of thing. So yes, if we do make it to the stars, I think it's almost inevitable that we will mess around with whatever we find, just to make them more comfortable with us, if anything.
And let me go a step further then. What if we're doing it in a way? What if we're adopting our own people and doing experiments and masquerading as aliens and a UFO? Perhaps something's wrong with the environment, or there's some nuclear fallout from Japan, and we want to test levels, but do it in a way no one else will find out. So we stage a masquerade of a UFO and aliens, and that's our own people doing tests on our own people. And keep in mind, we have done tests on our own people before in the form of radiation experiments in the 40s and 50s, so it's a possibility, a little far-fetched maybe, but it could happen.
I just wanted to add something quickly. Actually, Nolo pretty much said what I wanted to say, but I think that one way or another we are the product of aliens, and I think we are kind of like their pets, and they monitor us, they tag us, they abduct us, they perform medical procedures on us. And it's exactly the same way that we do to other animals like whales and sharks and things like that. We put them in museums and aquariums, and yeah, basically we're one, basically I think Earth is like one big tank, and if you look up, there's probably a set of eyes or multiple sets of eyes that are watching down and monitoring us and testing us. I don't know why, but my guess is that they created us and they're seeing what we're capable of without directly interfering in our day-to-day. This is Bug Out Girl, by the way.
Thank you, Bug Out Girl. Much appreciated. Stephen Hawking once said we should be careful what species we try to reach out for, because they might view us like ants and try to squash us the same way. He was very cautious in saying about we should think twice about reaching out to other alien species because we don't know what we're going to be involved with. And just because they're intelligent doesn't mean they have morals either. And I'll turn it back over to Puss in Boots. Great show, by the way.
Thank you, Luke. I just wanted to say thank you to the audience for listening, and thank you to everybody who participated in our show tonight. It has been absolutely awesome and eye-opening as well, learning about the different things that even I didn't know about. And I look forward to doing more shows on various other subjects. You guys have brought up things that we should look into and do other shows on. So this is